Today's lesson is about adding and subtracting decimals. This should be a lot of review for you because you should have learned how to add and subtract decimals in elementary school. But we're going to also do some estimating today so you can estimate the value of a problem without actually solving. Let's get started. So here's our first example. We're going to estimate the sum or difference here. So we're estimating 4.95 or 4 95/100ths plus 0 38/100ths. So here's how you can estimate. Look at the first value, 4 95/100ths. 4 95/100ths is almost 5. So what we can do is estimate that to be 5. The second number here is 0 38/100ths. So if I add that to our estimate is going to be 5 38/100ths. So now we can use that estimate to find the actual difference, because 4 95/100ths is only 5/100ths less than 5. So if we take that away from our estimate, that will be the actual answer. So you can actually solve adding and subtracting decimals problems without doing the steps I'm going to show you later if you know how to estimate. So let's finish our estimate up. If we take away the 5/100ths from that, our actual answer is 5 33/100ths. So let's estimate the difference or the sum here. Try to find a value you can estimate to a whole number, and then use that estimation to find the exact answer. So hit pause, do that for a minute, and then when you come back, you can see if you got the right answers. Okay, so here are the answers. In the first problem, I estimated 5 200ths to 5, because it's almost 5, and added that to 63/100ths to get 5 63/100ths. I added on an additional 200ths because 5 200ths is 2 more hundredths than 5. So I added that on to my estimated answer to get my actual answer of 5 65/100ths. With problem 2, I estimated both of them. I estimated 8 98/100ths to 9, and 0 49/100ths to 5/10 or 1/2. If you subtract those, you get 8.5 or 8.5. And then I had to adjust based on my estimating. I had to take away or add 2 on to 8 98/100ths to get to 9, so I'm taking away those 200ths. And then for the second part, I subtracted away 49/100ths in the actual problem, but in my estimate I subtracted away an extra 100th. So I have to add that extra 100th back on to get to the exact answer. So the exact answer is 8 49/100ths. So there's only one actual rule you need to remember when you solve problems without estimating. And that one rule is line up your decimal points. Anytime you add or subtract decimals, you need to line up your decimal points. So you'll see in the examples that I show you that I'm going to do that as I solve the problems. Okay, so here's our first problem. 15 875 thousandths plus 5 994 thousandths. I'll line those up, meaning all of the place values line up, the decimal points line up. From there, it's just adding like you usually would. So you may have to carry at some point, like we're going to have to carry in here. So when we solve, we're going to drop our decimal points down to get our final answer. So let's do our adding first. Okay, if you add, you get 5 plus 4 is 9, carry a 1 for the next one here. So 9 plus 7 is 16, and carry our 1 here onto the next part. So 8 plus 9 is 17, plus 1 is 18. Carry a 1, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11, and carry a 1 to get a 2. So there's our exact answer, 21 869 thousandths. You can see I brought the decimal point straight down into the answer. Okay? Occasionally when you add or subtract, you're going to have to fill in some empty spaces with zeros, or placeholders as they're called. The reason you have to do this is because not every decimal problem is going to have 2 values that go to the same place. For example, here, this example shows the first number going to the tenths place, but the second number going all the way to the thousandths place. When you line those up vertically, you'll notice there's some empty places here you have to put placeholders in. So unless a decimal repeats, you put zeros in. So here, for most adding and subtracting problems, you're not going to have repeating decimals anyhow, so you're going to put zeros in. Now, you can see that you have to borrow to make these a 10 and a 9 to solve it. A common mistake I see is that students who forget to put these here just drop a 1 and a 2 down into the answer, and that's not correct. The correct way to solve the problem is to do your subtracting with the zeros there as placeholders. So you would make this number a 10, and then you would borrow from this one because you made that other one a 10, and this number would become a 9, and then this number would become a 5. And then you have to borrow later on too. So because 1 is smaller than 7, you have to borrow here. But if you do your subtracting correct, you're going to get 14 and 279 thousandths as your answer. Okay, if you used your estimating to check, you would see that that's going to be the right answer. Okay, so try these two problems, line up your decimal points and your place values and solve, and then when you're done, you can unpause your video to see how you did. Okay, here are the correct answers. You can see in the first problem, I put a placeholder down here, and then 8 plus 0 is 8, and I continued to add to get my answer. Here you can see that I had added a 0 here, and then I had to do some borrowing in the problem. 10 minus 7 is 3, and then I had to borrow here, so 8 minus 7 is 1, and I continued to get my answer. Okay? And that's it. That's how you add or subtract decimals. You can come back later on and watch this video if you need to, especially for the estimating. Use this to help out with homework and test preparation like always, and I'll see you next time.